Hey guys, it's Coach Carrie, and now that fall has arrived, guess what I'm craving? A good homemade apple pie. It's been forever since I've had one, and I've got some apples that a couple of them were kind of bruised, and I'm kind of the apple snob. I have to have my apple perfect before I will eat it, but I'm not going to waste it. So I'm going to take my apples and make an apple pie out of it, and guess what? It's not going to elevate my blood sugars. It's not going to make my inflammation levels go sky high. It's going to be healthy, good for my body, and good for my taste buds. All right, join me today. All right, guys, you're going to absolutely love this recipe. The first thing that I want you to do is go ahead and preheat your oven at 425 degrees. Once you do that, grab your almond flour, and we're going to use 3 cups of the almond flour to be able to make the pie crust here. Put all this into a medium or a large size bowl. After you get all that poured in, we're going to add 1 stick of melted butter. And half a cup of your xylitol. You can also use erythritol or stevia if that is your preference. And we're going to add half a teaspoon of the Himalayan pink sea salt, and then just mix that up really, really well. This is going to become your dough consistency. After that is well mixed, you'll need to have a pie dish. Now, I found that if you use a glass or a ceramic pan, you don't necessarily have to grease them with the coconut oil, but if you are using a metal pan, then you probably do. So do that based on whatever you are using. I'm going to be using a glass pie pan. So I basically took my dough consistency here, and you can see it's crumbly, and I split it in half, and I'm putting half of the dough mixture into my pie dish. Once you do that, then you can start pressing it into the bowl to make your pie crust. And it should have the dough-like consistency because you've added the butter to it. So easy to form, very easy to use, and it's really a versatile crust. You know, if you want to use this crust for a savory dish, you could omit the xylitol, and you could add like half a teaspoon of garlic powder or some other seasoning. So you could use that and make a chicken pie crust or anything like that you want to do. So I like recipes that are versatile, and we can kind of switch it back and forth from a sweet to savory or whatever that we want to do. All right, now I noticed here that my pie crust is not quite as thick as I want it. So I added just a little bit more of the dough consistency that was in my bowl. And I'm just going to press that towards the end here. After I finish pressing it, I'm just going to put my pie dish into the refrigerator and just let the crust kind of chill there for a while. All right, so now it's actually time to make the apple pie filling, and this might look a little strange to you. This is not the way I've ever done it, but it ended up being perfect. So we're gonna have a skillet, if you'll put it on like a medium heat, and you're going to actually melt 1 whole stick of butter and then 3 tablespoons of almond flour. You're gonna whisk that in there, let it simmer for about a minute, and make sure that you whisk it constantly because you do not want it to burn. All right, the next thing that you're going to be doing is adding 1/4 cup of water and also 1 cup of the xylitol. And you're going to bring that to a boil. Once that goes to a boil, go ahead and reduce the heat, and you're going to continue simmering it for about 3 minutes. You're going to whisk it frequently, and then after all that 3 minutes is over, go ahead and remove your pan from the heat. Let it cool off. As it cools off, it's going to thicken up. All right, so while my pan is thickening and cooling off, I'm going to start adding my apples. So I'm going to end up using 7 apples here. And again, these are not the best apples. That's the reason why I decided that I would make them into the apple pie. So anytime I have an apple that looks bruised, or it just doesn't look like I just want to really crunch into it, I will normally bake them, cook them, put them in an apple, do some type of dessert. I never let my food go to waste. All right, so peel those open, and then you're going to slice them and put them into a bowl. Now I did add just a little bit of lemon juice, and that was to make sure that my apples did not turn brown while I was slicing all these apples up. All right, go ahead and add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon to your apple mixture and stir all that up really well. Remember, cinnamon is really good for balancing your blood sugars. And mix that all up. Make sure that all the apples are actually coated with your spices. And then by now, your apple filling should be a little more cooled off and a little bit thicker than what it was originally. And all you're going to do is add that to the apple filling. Now, yes, it took about 5 minutes for that apple filling to cook up, but I promise you it is going to be totally worth it. You will never know that you are making a healthy apple pie, and neither will your family, I promise you. So go ahead and mix all of that up really, really well. And you will find that you've got a lot of apples in here. Now again, I use 7 apples. If you want to use less than that, perfectly fine. All right, so I'm taking all of my apples now and I'm dumping them into my pie crust bowl. And you're gonna see I've got a lot of apples. I mean, it is filled to the top, but I like a really good filling apple pie. All right, and remember all that dough that we have left in that pan? We're going to go ahead and use that to make the top part of our dough. So I'm just kind of crumbling it on top. I kind of want it completely even all the way through. And it does have that moisture dough-like consistency, but I'm going to go ahead and put everything on top, and then I'm going to press it, okay? So long are the days where I am not making another pie crust just to put it on top, okay? And so when I press it down, it's got enough moisture in it between the apple pie filling and the dough that it's basically making its own crust again. Now I've added 1 egg and just 1 tablespoon of water, and I'm mixing it in a little bowl, and I'm just going to kind of drizzle it on top, and that way when you are baking it, it's going to give it that pretty golden color. One of these days I'm going to get one of those butter brushes or the egg brushes, and that'll make my life a little bit easier, but honestly a spoon works just as well. I've been using it for years. You don't have to use all of the egg consistency, but if you want to, go ahead, perfectly fine. Now you're going to bake it at 425 degrees for 15 minutes. After that 15 minutes, you're actually going to reduce the heat to 350 degrees, and you're going to continue baking for another 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the brownness of your crust. I would definitely recommend putting a baking pan underneath it, because as it warms up, your apple pie is going to spill out just a little bit, and it is absolutely delicious, guys. My family was so excited for dessert after dinner tonight. All right, guys, make good choices. See you next week.